I'm Jackie.
And I'm Ashley. Welcome back to Dumb Witch Club.
Yay!
Yay, we're here.
We're here. We're here.
We're here.
We're here in our human bodily forms.
Yes. Which, yeah. Yeah. A lot of reminders this week about the fact that we have to exist in human bodily forms.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And obviously, embodied witchcraft is our subject today. So we're going to get a little more into some of that. But
yeah,
it turned out to be the perfect week for it.
It really did, which happens often. So you would think that, we learn valuable lessons from that.
You'd think. Except Dumb Witch Club.
Yeah, I don't think we're called Smart Witch Club, so not gonna do that.
Probably a reason for that, too. But anyway, let's do a card pull.
Okay. Let's do a card pull. Yep. I brought the Hollow Valley deck. They're like, we hear in the Hollow Valley every time. No, you
That's
don't.
not true. We
not
bring
true.
different ones. Last week in Sex Magic, we had a pleasure oracle.
That was cool. I liked that.
I liked that too.
This is Hollow Valley deck of symbols. I figured, embodied witchcraft. Let's use something open-ended and let's see if we can tap into that embodied intuition. Let's use that.
Okay.
Well, I'm basically like instructing you to do that.
Okay, I will do that.
Just give you instructions on what to do. You're like, okay, it is the Virgo season.
Give me your orders.
It is.
It is, but you're right. It is Virgo season.
Yeah. So
And I'm not mad about it anymore.
No.
I was mad about it at first.
you should check out that episode.
It's transformative.
After this.
After you finish watching this episode. Okay. Ooh. All right.
Ooh, that one's giving you trouble.
Come to me. Reflection.
Oh, okay. All right.
Reflection. I like that this artwork is showing
I do too.
like a reverse mirror reflection image. It's like a hand holding kind of like a branch, but it's showing you like the reflection, the inverse.
Yeah, I love that
Yeah.
as well. That's very cool. How are you feeling about that card?
I really like it. And oop, it just fell down. Oh, I'll leave it like that. That's fine. No, I really like it. I feel like it fits the subject.
I think so too.
We're going to be talking about, like we said, embodied witchcraft. I think it does require a lot of reflection.
It does.
As in like the thought process of reflecting on something. But also, your body mirrors itself in two halves.
Yes.
And your brain does the same thing. So I think that's pretty cool. That's a good card.
Yeah, and it's reaching me on the like body reflecting the things of the mind, reflecting the things of the soul, and then obviously we always reflect each other.
I think that's
back
true.
to each other, so that resonates as well.
Yes, that's a great pull. I love that.
Good job on that card pull.
Okay.
Why though?
Yeah, I really, really, really need to know why, though, because, it's been a hell of a time.
It really has.
A hell of a time.
You mentioned last week, you were like, there's tons of like retrogrades happening and like all kinds of stuff. So,
That's made me think of something. Okay.
Do you want to say it?
No.
Or do you wanna
No,
hold on
I don't
to
want to
it?
say it.
Okay.
It's for later after the show.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay. Don't forget what it is.
I won't forget.
Okay. Because I hate that. And then you like forget and you're like, oh, what was it?
I know. No, I won't forget.
I love it. Yeah. I feel like that's been wild. And I've been noticing like just like a lot of upheaval. And then we were just chatting with our producer about that, like just weird like technical glitches and like weird stuff. And like my phone today just wouldn't unlock, just wouldn't open the screen. No. It wouldn't open. It just wouldn't.
Yeah, no, and I mean, obviously, it's the obvious thing to say about that is Mercury retrograde.
Exactly.
And so looking ahead to the why, though, for this week, September 15th, Mercury does go direct.
Yes.
So we have a short amount of time left with this Mercury retrograde.
Right.
When it goes direct, it's still in its retrograde shadow for a couple of weeks. So you're still kind of maybe feeling some of that or wrapping that kind of stuff up.
Yeah.
But you start to gain more clarity. Mercury kind of picks up its pace and starts, moving forwards again. So I feel like, whenever there's technological phone, computer errors. It's always like, is Mercury in retrograde? Well, it actually is right now. So
it actually is.
Maybe that's part of that.
Yeah, and I think with it being like, it's Mercury in Virgo in retrograde.
Yes, that too. I know.
And I've just found myself being super picky, weird about things, and like nitpicky, even about my own things, like just nitpicky inner monologue about stuff. And then, I don't know, but I really do think that when that's happening, I think that you should turn more to dialogue if possible. When your inner monologue is just not monologuing and it's like Virgo and you're just down on yourself and everything. I think you turn it to dialogue and you talk through those things because that is where you like work through it.
Which is obviously Mercury's energy as well.
It is communication. And in retrograde, it can even feel a little bit fraught because maybe like, everyone's kind of dealing with it. So maybe those dialogues aren't like dialoguing, but I feel like
your monologue's not monologuing, your dialogue's not dialoguing.
No, it's just not. It's giving retrograde. But maybe when it stations direct, it'll feel better. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it should. It might not. But it could.
Like, I don't have the answers to everything.
But Mercury is in Virgo. You're supposed to have the answers to everything.
That's frustrating because I don't.
Well,
whatever.
Okay, so that one's that one. Yike. Okay, September 14th.
Yeah.
We have a new moon
in
Virgo.
I like
Do you like this one?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I like this one.
I like it too. Tell me why. It's also in opposition to Neptune.
Yes, it is.
So that means, as we know, a new moon means that the sun and the moon are in the same sign.
Yeah.
So Neptune is opposing the sun and the moon.
Freaking Neptune, dude.
Yeah, he's always stirring the pot. I feel.
Just raining on stuff. And it's like really like
dampening everything.
Can you not?
Yeah.
Because like we're still dealing with the retrograde at that point too.
I know,
like,
but remember
barely,
he's always giving that King Triton energy, which we hate because we're Ariel.
Yes, that's right. Daddy, I love him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's frustrating. But I'm ignoring that.
Okay. I just wanted to mention it.
I'm ignoring it.
You can ignore it and we can all ignore it. I'm just mentioning it's happening.
I'm ignoring it. I wrote it down and I wrote to ignore it. I did. I was like, your dreams and your wants are valid and achievable. And I underlined valid and I underlined achievable. And I put 3 exclamation points because I was
can't
like,
see
no.
That. That's true.
I was like, no, that's not happening. This new moon in Virgo, I am setting goals. I am getting things done. I am setting up routines. I like that. I like that.
Okay,
sometimes.
So I hear you and I love what you're saying. And I want to give a slightly different take on it, which was what I had. Okay, so I have, new moon in Virgo, obviously. Sun and moon aligning. It is always the time, like you're kind of saying. Your dreams and your thoughts and your hopes inside of you can align with like outside what you're able to do and execute. And because it's in Virgo, it is about making solid plans, executing your plans, which means executing your desires, like playing them out in the world. So I saw the opposition with Neptune as Neptune is there, right? So Neptune is reminding you not to be too practical.
Okay, I like that.
And or not to get pulled too far into the waters of fantasy.
All right.
So it's kind of both extremes, and Neptune is like, don't go there, don't go there. And I get it. You're like, don't tell me where to go.
Right.
Okay. But maybe, just maybe.
I'll take it under advisement. How about that?
You can mull it over.
I will mull it over.
Okay.
I will mull it.
All right. Mull it.
I will mull it. It's fine. Fine, Neptune, fine.
Okay. All right. Okay. Big Daddy Neptune.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's fine with me. I'm done with that. I'm done with why, though.
I honestly need no more. I need no more. Because I'm... Basically, that whole entire thing was me saying, I'm ignoring all of this.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was, like, the vibe that I had.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm making my lists. I'm making my plans. I don't really care. right? And I'm just doing what I need to do.
Yes. Do it.
If my phone is not unlocking, then I guess I can't call or text anybody, and that's just how it's going to be.
Then you can just throw your phone.
I might chuck it off a bridge.
Yeah. All right. So that's why, though.
That's why, though.
Big witch energy. Okay. I love that we both sang that. It was not a harmony. I'm sorry. But
no, it was sort of approaching kind of the same tones, but we were figuring out where we were going to land. But
if we kept going, I think we would have gotten it. But
we did.
Anyways, our big witch energy today is embodied witchcraft.
Embodied witchcraft.
Yeah. Embodied witchcraft. Okay, so I don't know how many of you hear this and are even like, oh, I know what that is. Okay.
Yeah, probably not a lot.
I don't really know that it's something that's like really out there as a discussion a lot. And I feel like we do end up talking about a lot of things that I'm not sure are talked about a lot.
Yes. Or if they are, it's so esoteric and just out there that it like doesn't make sense to people, and then they're like, what? Never mind. Like, I guess I'm just never gonna do that because that seems weird. And it's like, I get it. I've encountered information like that before too, where I'm like, well, I don't really understand what that means, so maybe I just don't possess the ability to do that.
Yeah, or stuff gets too like woo-woo, too much Pisces energy maybe happening there. Yeah. And so we're on the opposition, we're on Virgo, we're going to like pull it in, okay?
Yes.
So we're going to give you something hopefully that's a little more practical, a little more like reined in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I like the dreaminess, I like the intuitiveness.
I love it.
We love it. That's what we do. But there is something really nice about, I was just waxing poetic about that with why though. Like, I like the tasks, I like the structure, I like the routines.
Yeah.
Because you need it.
And I think that's why this is a good time of year to actually talk about this topic.
I agree.
Because it kind of pulls it into balance. So, okay, let's start out with a little definition time, right?
Yeah, sure.
Do you have a definition for embodiment or embodied? And if you don't, I do. I'm just wondering if you also do.
I don't think I wrote out a definition. No.
Okay, no, that's amazing. So what the definition that I wrote is embodiment is the practice of living in awareness of the responses and sensations in your miraculous body.
Ooh, I love that. Like, can you say it again?
Okay. It is living in awareness of the responses and sensations in your miraculous body.
Perfect.
Yay.
I love that. I made a note about the miraculousness of our bodies. Just as a reminder, our bodies are made up of literal star material.
Yes.
So that's amazing in and of itself. That's just something to recognize. We're literally magic. We're made of magic.
100%. And I think, that is scientifically accurate.
Yep.
That is not woo-woo magic talk.
No.
Like, that is true.
Yes, it's true.
And it can be spiritual and it can be secular, but it is a fact.
It is a fact.
It's amazing.
And it's an amazing fact. It's a beautiful fact, and it sort of bridges all the things we're talking about. So
yes, and like every second of the time that you are alive, from your first breath and maybe even before that, your body is doing millions and billions of things constantly, every second, to keep you alive, to keep you aware, to keep you in balance, to keep you safe. It's a miracle that all of this can happen.
I know.
And you don't have to think about hardly any of it. It just happens.
Yeah, there are these involuntary things that are happening.
Yeah.
So it's like you are just a magical being, even if you're just existing as a being.
Yes, correct. Like laying down on the floor, literally just, that is a miracle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Aw, I love that.
I know. So how come, this, talking about bodies gets problematic. And if they're so miraculous and wonderful as they are, what the fuck happens?
Yeah.
So that we're like feeling awkward in our body and hating our body, and what happens?
Yeah, I think this is why people either don't know about this topic, shy away from this topic, don't want to talk about this topic, because that is what happens. Like, I think especially our culture, it really struggles with the idea that the body is part of everything that we are. It really wants to separate our bodies from our minds, from our spirits or our souls, and sort of like compartmentalize them in different areas. And so then there's so much dysfunction about the way that we perceive our bodies, other people's bodies, everything. And that, has to do with the commodification of them and capitalism and everything else. But it's really, really hard to even just exist inside one. It's hard.
And I think you're right. I think there's there's this unspoken hierarchy.
Yeah.
Where your rational logic is like the top. And then maybe your soul or your spirit is after that.
Yes.
And then your body is last. Like, your body's a piece of junk that you have to live in because you're alive, but that's not what's important about you.
No, that's so valid.
Or if it is important, then that's superficial and vain.
Yeah. You shouldn't care about it.
Right.
And I mean, even to the point of literal models that are built like Maslow's hierarchy, it's structured that way. Your basic needs are related to the things that are part of your body, and then that's this, and then you're going up towards that peak, and it's that enlightenment mental thing is at the top, and somewhere along the line, I think it's been appropriated by whoever is trying to send these messages to where those are just separate things, and that's really what that you need to achieve, and that's the higher plane, and anything down here is just basic, like you said, and just kind of base and gross, and
I think that is not true.
No,
it's just not true.
It's not true. I mean, there's so many messages to tell us that it is.
So you have to make a choice.
Yes, you do.
And the choice is, do you believe all the stuff?
Right.
Or do you make a choice? And if you want to make a choice to learn how to be embodied in your body, meaning that you are celebrating and living in the miracle of what your body is, you absolutely can use witchcraft to accomplish that. And you can accomplish that in many ways and apply it to your witchcraft.
That's right. Yes. And we know that your body can feel like an unsafe place, or this topic can feel like an unsafe place to be. It's more than understandable that it does feel that way. And we, I think, all deal with that. So that's okay. Start from there. Wherever you are with it, start from there. It's all valid.
Yeah, and I think as we, in witchcraft, but also just in growing as a human, there's various events and circumstances that cause us to disconnect from our bodies or from our spirit or from our sense of goodness as a human. And the softest, gentlest ways to reconnect with that, because it's all still there, but it's learned to whisper because you had to put it in a closet. And maybe you had to do that. But it's in there, and it's whispering, and you can listen to it whisper, and then you can let it get louder, and then you can unlock the closet, and it can come out. This whole thing, I tend to take metaphors too far, so I'll leave that. I'll stop doing that.
No, I like it.
Yeah, but your body has wisdom, and it's telling you things. And it's very connected to intuition.
Right.
Sometimes intuition is not logical. Right. In fact, often it's not logical.
Right.
But it's real. It's your body telling you something that you need to know if you pay attention.
Absolutely. And I think that that's a really good place to start if you're confused as to okay, get what you're saying, understand sort of what you're differentiating, but what do I do? I think that that's a great place, is just start with your mind. Start with the place that you do feel comfortable receiving those messages and feeling those messages. Tap into those thoughts first, and then try to see if you can determine how those thoughts land inside your body. Just take it a little step further. Instead of just entertaining the thought or the idea, dig in a little deeper when it occurs to you, and try really feeling where that feels.
Yeah, and in our spell language episode,
yes,
you talk some about this.
I do
also. So go back to that too if you want like a little bit more details on that. So we're starting to talk about some of the pathways to embodiment. So another one is your five senses.
Yeah.
So, and this obviously lends itself to witchcraft. I think it's obvious because we try to bring in our spells and in our practices, things that call to and speak to all the five senses, like candles and scents and oils, things that you can touch and smell and taste and feel. So bringing in those sensory experiences, that is another pathway to embodiment. When you recognize all of the things that your body is sensing and taking in from the environment at any given time. So you can do that at any time, and you can also intentionally do that in your witchcraft.
Absolutely. And, there are going to be times where you're doing this and you're simply tuning in. That's where you start, right? You simply just start tuning in to your body. And there's going to be times when you're doing that and, things are going to feel a little bit hard or like a little bit scary or sad
or just overwhelming.
Because it comes along with it. Like, as much as you're going to feel things that are good and things are going to appeal to your senses, it's also going to bring up things that are not. And that's sort of the essence of being embodied, is that the good comes with the bad, just like everything else. There are two sides. So, you are opening yourself up to some of that, and so be really gentle with yourself and how far you want to go with that in certain stages. Just pace it out.
Exactly. And I think that it is really important to acknowledge that when you're welcoming information from your body, there is wisdom, but there's also trauma or wounds that your body has held on to.
Yeah.
And I think as you build this practice and strengthen yourself, you will start to confront more difficult things sometimes. Yeah. But it's because you're ready to. And so take it as a sign. You're never obligated, but take it as a sign that you actually are able to face that now and process it in a better way or a different way where maybe before you couldn't even do that. So just, I think all of, when I'm talking about the miraculous body, that includes everything.
Yes.
Includes the good, the bad, the in-between, and it's not good or bad. It's just all there. It is.
And it's a good thing to remember, because I think sometimes what I've noticed with topics like this and why it's either not talked about, like we mentioned, or it might be talked about, but it's super woo-woo or like esoteric in a way that like you're not going to be able to reach it. It's not going to resonate. Is because a lot of times this is set up as a concept of a place to like reach achievement. A lot of times when like yoga is incorporated, which I have no problem with yoga. I love yoga. I do yoga. It's great. But I just feel like some of these sort of like philosophies get enmeshed and intertwined in this in a way that makes it seem as if like this embodiment thing is just like, I don't know, you're going to be this like goddess who loves every single thing about your body, and like every imperfection is just gorgeous and beautiful, and like you're just this otherworldly thing, like you don't even feel pain anymore. This is just BS. Like all of that is so dumb. And anytime I come across that and that is what the tone is, I'm like, done with this. That is not real. It's not real. You're gonna get in there and there's gonna be trash because there is. Like, it's there, which is why you don't want to, go near it, because you know that it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt, but it's also gonna be good for you.
Yep.
And you're not gonna be that, I mean, you're all goddesses, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I definitely know what you mean. And I think, this is where it gets jumbled up and it gets mixed up. And anytime there is some achievement that you're supposed to make, whether it's with your body physically on the outside, how it looks, or whether it's you're supposed to feel amazing, positive feelings only about your body or yourself. That's not an achievement. It's maybe an aspiration because we do want to feel positive ways and feel good about ourselves. But it's not some achievement to check off, like, I've reached the point where I'm amazing all the time. Like, that's just not a thing.
No, and if you think you're doing that, you're not doing that.
No, and if somebody tells you that they're doing that, don't even trust them. Like,
they're not doing weird. That. And it starts to get into that, like, which we've talked about too, into that, like, toxic wellness space.
Yeah.
That, like, the only way you're valid is if you're well. The only way you're valid and embodied is if you're fully accepting of everything.
And they're defining what being well is.
Yeah. And they're
what it looks like.
Right. And they're defining that based on an industry. Right. That's always what they're defining that based on. And that completely just, like, subjugates so many people's experiences and just discounts so many different types of bodies and what we're experiencing and everything else. Yeah, it's just not valid. It's gonna feel messy. It is messy. It's gonna be complicated. It is complicated. And that's all okay. None of what we're talking about here is prescribing some kind of, like, plan or something for you to achieve this embodied state. That's not what it is. We're just talking to you about how, like, the body can be used in a really effective and beneficial way to do magic.
Yeah, and it's a journey, and you get to have your journey, and no one gets to tell you what it should be.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Other pathways to embodiment, though, that I had thought of, one of them was movement.
Oh, I love that.
And that can be moving your body intentionally, whether that's with dance or a mindful walk or, other exercise forms that are sort of intentional. But I also think it's noticing when your body is moving and you may not have noticed. So if you're sitting in a room and maybe the people, or in a restaurant or something, and there's even strangers, like, across the room, maybe they start having an argument. Like, notice if your body moves when you're in that environment. And by a movement, it could be like your facial expression changes. It could be like you turn away, or it could be you're like, ooh, what's going on? But, your body moves. And I mean, I'm moving a ton right now, you know, and I'm trying not to. I'm trying to sit still, But I think noticing when your body moves in response to something.
Yeah.
And it's just an observation. You're just noticing. And you can adjust it or not. Or, also notice if you're, like, thinking certain thoughts about yourself. If they're negative thoughts.
Right.
Notice what your body's doing. Are you, like, looking down and hunching down and, like, lowering yourself based on that thought process? You can hold your body up, and that will help your brain give you better thoughts. So it's all connected. It's all in your body.
It's fascinating like that, because your body and what you do and the way that Jackie demonstrated that, and that's not the only time you've ever said that. I can recall other times where you're like, see, your posture just even changes when you think about it this way. Yeah. Sometimes your body just naturally does these things, which is great. Pay attention to what it's doing. Sometimes it's doing the exact right thing, and you're like, yay, I'm so good at this. Like, I know how to fix this. Not fix, but you know what I mean. And sometimes you're going to notice, oh, maybe I could do something differently with my body, and it could contribute to me feeling a slightly different way. And it's like that, like, acting your way into a feeling rather than feeling your way into an action. Exactly. Sometimes it's easier to just act, right? Just move and see what happens.
Yes, and I think it's really hard to directly impact your thoughts and feelings.
Right.
But you can move your hands and feet. You can move your shoulders. You can move your head. Like, you can do that. And sometimes you feel frozen in your body. And that's, at times that's understandably what's happening. But the moment you can move, you can.
I love that.
And applying this idea to witchcraft, I think, and we've done spells together, but even when I do them alone, I notice that I'm pretty still. And we try, I think both of us, and I don't know if try is if it's intentional or not, but I think we find ourselves, like, moving very slowly, like when we're putting things down and when we're, like, lighting the candles or, like, sprinkling salt, whatever it is that we're doing it pretty slowly, I feel.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's interesting to observe that.
Yeah.
Or whatever you're doing in your witchcraft practice, observe how you're using your body with placing those things. And again, you can just observe it, but if you realize that you're rushing through it, maybe we want to slow down. Or if you realize that you're maybe taking too long, maybe you want to speed it up. I don't know. It depends. But I think it's just interesting to observe.
It is. And that's so true. And I think because, and that's a really great, I think like witchcraft is a great way to start noticing that, like doing spells or doing ritual is a really good like gateway, kind of like you've been saying, like, or pathway into starting to notice the embodiment aspect, because you're doing things like you're performing a ritual, you're doing ritualistic kind of actions. And so that's a time where you're really tuned in because you're focused on a task, right? Yeah. So it's a good time to really start, even if you're only noticing and tuning in those moments because it's the only time you think of it. That's a really good place to start. And it will bleed over into the other areas of your life outside of ritual. It will, because the more you kind of focus on it during that, the more it's just going to be implanted in your brain. But if that's where you start, I think that's amazing.
Yes, and I think it is hard, like we've talked about in other episodes, it's hard to remember the things all the time or even at the time that you want. Totally. So if you only use times that you're practicing your witchcraft, as in doing a spell or a ritual, if that's your only time or that's your reminder to like get in your body, to get into your posture, to like be deliberate with your movements, to breathe and notice your breath, and you're incorporating that into your spell, that's enough.
Oh my gosh.
That's plenty. And it starts to seep out into your awareness at other times too. Mm-hmm. So please, yes. I think that's why I love this subject, because it really makes so much sense.
It really does. And like you said, it's enough. It's more than enough. It's more than a lot of people do, especially in our culture. And I think there's been this sort of trend for a number of years now on mindfulness, and
it's a hot topic.
And there's nothing wrong with it. I think anytime we're talking about, things that are not about productivity, I like it. So, whatever. I'm not going to hate on the topic, but just like anything else, it starts to get taken over by those capitalist ideas. They just infiltrate it, and it's so hard to keep it pure. And I think that's kind of what happened there. And then it's like, well, am I doing it the perfect way? And am I doing it enough? And am I doing it too much? Am I spending too much time on this? And, and then it involves the mind, which, okay, great. And that's a place to start. But again, the mind is an just unstable place. Like your thoughts are just all over the place. You can have a thought, but you try to hold on to it and it just disappears, or it just changes, or something like that.
Yeah, or you wish you could get rid of a certain thought and it just sticks and it sticks and it sticks.
Right, and sometimes with mindfulness, it sort of feels like that Sisyphean effort of like, well, if I can just control my thoughts, right? And you're just going back to these philosophies of like, let me just keep trying and,
But no, but I think what you're saying is exactly demonstrating how sort of a capitalist patriarchal influence on something like mindfulness, because what mindfulness is sort of almost a misnomer. Mindfulness is actually about getting into your body. It's not actually about using your mind.
Right.
So, but I think it's been sort of warped in just like the pop culture kind of understing of what it is, or how you do it, or how you achieve it,
how you achieve it and how you do it. And there's very few kind of like very sanctioned and whitewashed and sanitized suggestions for how you do it. And if something doesn't resonate with you, then that's your problem, and you better figure out how it does. Like for me, like I like some grounding exercises, but one of the ones that they often teach you is the thing about like being rooted to the floor. You hear this a lot, right? Planting your feet and sort of imagining roots growing into the floor, rooted to the floor. I'm claustrophobic, man. Like that does not comfort me. I hate that exercise. I can't stand that. It does not make me calm. I'm only mindful of the fact that like I want to cut those roots off. Like I don't. And
I absolutely love feet on the floor, and I don't think of growing roots. I think that's weird.
It's weird.
But I love pressing my feet into the floor and just being like, I am here. I exist.
Yes, I'm grounded.
Yes, and I love it. And so, you're allowed to love it or hate it or whatever it is. You're allowed to have your own opinion. And if something doesn't work for you, don't do it. Do the thing that does work for you.
Yes, and I think that that's just another thing. If you find yourself encountering these practices, or you want to try some of them or something, that's great. But tune in to yourself and your intuition, where you're feeling it in your body. And if it doesn't feel right, try something else. But it's a really great way because, like I said, your thoughts, they come in and out, and they're just like really unpredictable. But your somatic feelings, your body feelings, you are able to kind of hold them a little bit more steadily. So let's say you are feeling a feeling and it feels comforting and good and grounding, and you feel it like maybe like in your like root energy center. Focus in on that feeling and how that feels in that energy center. It'll be so much easier to hold on to that energy as a feeling in your body than a thought in your mind.
Yeah, and I kind of hate the limitations of the English language that feeling means emotion and it means like body sensation. Yeah,
that's so true.
So what you're talking about is body sensation.
Tactile feeling.
Right? Yeah. But it's like when you say feeling, it sounds like you're talking about feelings, like emotions. And so I know it's like, it's so convoluted, but I know what you're talking about is that somatic sensory motor in your body feeling. Right?
I know. I like how I'm gesticulating like any of that makes sense.
No, it
like
does.
feeling, but not feeling. Like, what does that mean? I don't know.
No, well, that is what it means. And
that's
so
what it means,
you're
I
totally
guess.
right. No, I don't know. I mean, I love every subject that we talk about. Evidently, I say it every episode, but no, I really do, and I feel like this is something that it seems inaccessible, or it seems weird, or it seems like, ew, I don't want to be in my body. I hate my body. That's all the stuff that you've learned. Unlearn it. Like get yourself to where you're feeling at least neutral, and can use your body to help you in your witchcraft, in your life in general.
Totally.
And there's some pathways that we mentioned to that. There's sort of acknowledging that your body is where your mind and your brain and your heart and your soul exist while you're alive. And your body is here for you all day, every day, getting you through everything. And that is magic. So
yes. And if you're feeling good about this, and you're kind of tuning in and tapping in and embodying things a little bit more, and you want like a slightly different take on it that's the same but different, but the same but also different, you can watch our sex magic episode. That very much involves embodiment.
Yes, it involves some bodily sensations.
Yeah. And we are in full support of that too. And that could even be in sort of easy way. I would say for some people that might even be an easier way to tapping into embodiment, because it's, for some people, a very obvious feeling. They maybe know exactly what feels good, what doesn't, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that might be like a really great place to start. For others, that might be something that you move on to after you sort of start here. Just, whatever works for you, but it's something else we have.
Well, I'm glad that you put that reminder out there. Yeah. And I think that about does it for our big witch energy.
Sure. Yeah. It is good energy.
I know. So, what does that mean?
Spell of the week.
Spell of the week.
Okay.
Lay it on me.
Spell of the week. Okay. So this one I'm sharing because it derived from like a personal necessity.
Yes.
And it was a need. And I won't go into detail, but it was something that I needed to do for Jackie.
Because I was having a physical ailment over this past week. And I know that's very vague, and that's all I'm going to say, but it was awful.
It was awful, and like that's...
And it's not over yet, and I'm just... My body is getting me through right now. It's helping me.
And like you said, that's...
Even though it's also hurting me, it's very annoying.
Well, yeah, it's all those complicated things, and it's going to be, but that's okay. But yes, it came around at the right time.
I know you didn't want to say things about me that I didn't want to have said. So that's why I interrupted and said and explained that. So, anyways.
Okay. So, embodied magic is something that I am just like very tapped into, and like good and bad, okay? Like they're like, we know, you've talked about it a bunch. But this was something that I did for Jackie, and I wanted to talk about it because I feel like it's a type of spell work that isn't maybe often mentioned, but I did an embodied kind of spell on behalf of her. And what I did was I brewed a healing tea. So I have the way that I have things set up is that I have different ingredients that I can use that are like safe to consume, obviously, that I can brew a tea out of. You might have like like pre-made tea bags or like sachets or maybe loose leaf tea that you put, whatever you have is fine. But kind of try to choose with intention the ingredients that you think will work for what you need. In terms of Jackie, it was for healing. So I picked the herbs and things and essential kind of aromatherapy things that I think contribute to healing. You can look some of that stuff up if you need to, but you can also just go with your intuition. So that's what I did. I went with my intuition and I brewed the tea. And speaking of like what we talked about before, where you were talking about when we do spells together and sort of the way that we move and stuff, that's exactly what I did with this tea. I picked everything, I felt everything that I chose, the vessel I put it in, the way that I boiled the water, every single aspect of what I was doing, I was infusing with my intention towards Jackie. I felt it in all different parts of my body as I was doing it. Once I brewed it and let it cool, I then consumed it myself. Now, this is where some people might be like, okay, you lost me, right? Because you hear about making spells and then giving it to the other person and then it heals them. But this you can do, and I have done, and she has too. I drank the tea. And when I drank the tea, I focused on how the tea was making me feel and where it was hitting me inside my own body, and worked on energetically connecting that to Jackie's body. That might sound kind of advanced or like a little bit like, yeah, I'm not sure. But it works.
It works.
It works. And
it really does.
And you just have to kind of like, again, with the conversation around thoughts, right? Thoughts betray you. They're fleeting. They're jumbled. They're all over the place. If you're having those doubts coming in as you're doing this, that's okay. It's going to happen, but just let them go and focus on your body. Let them go and focus on your body. Because trust me, even though we've been doing this for years, I still have those moments of like, is this crazy? Am I? Yeah. That's okay. You're going to have them forever. But I focused on my body, and I focused on consuming that and just the action of that and every intention when I was doing it. And then sending out that energy that I was feeling in here to her. Yeah. So that's just a suggestion of something that you can maybe do. I don't know, for somebody else that might be struggling or, whatever you need to do.
I absolutely love this. One, because it's a true spell story.
It is a spell story. Oh, spell story.
I know. That's spell cute. Story. That is cute. Maybe we could do something with that. Like that. No, because it's true. I was the beneficiary of it. I knew that she was doing it. It absolutely did help. And I also love this because, well, one, I think the embodiment and then the concept of sort of like projecting that towards another person is amazing. But even if you did that for your own healing, for yourself,
totally,
obviously you can do that too. And just that whole process of the way you described it, like being so like deliberate and intentional about everything. As we say, like, that's magic, that's a spell, you're doing it. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yay.
Healing tea.
Okay. Well, I think that about wraps it up.
I feel warm in my heart.
Until next time.
That's what I'm embodying. Okay, sorry.
I think it was the last time you also, not you, we both were messing up the ending here. So until next time.
Stay witchy, friends.
And stay dumb like we do.
Dumb Witch Club is written and produced by us, Ashley Sidner
and Jackie Gerard, at the Dumb Witch Clubhouse in Orange County, California.
Produced and edited by Matt Heinemeyer, creative director and culture consultant Violet Turner.
Original music by Ashley Sidner. And look us up on all your favorite social media platforms, including Patreon.
Until next time, stay witchy, friends.
And stay down.